Welcome again to my Mystic Talks, and I'm going today to talk a little bit more about some of my predictions that were made, and one in particular that I want to talk a little bit more about. Now, I said this year that an ancient giant squid will make the news, and as I was seeing something under the ice, right? And there has been a giant oarfish recently found, but that wasn't quite what I had in mind. I was thinking of something ancient. A giant oarfish is one thing, and people saying, "Oh yeah, you got it right, Craig. You got it right." No, I haven't. I'm not sure, but something ancient I was thinking about under the ice. Now, in 2016, in my predictions, I made a prediction that was, to quote, because I've got it some of it in front of me here, archaeological discovery made in Antarctica. Archaeological discovery. Now, how often, if ever in time, have we ever had an archaeological discovery made in Antarctica? I don't think there's been any signs of human life being found there at all. But just recently, NASA images and Google Earth images have been revealing something really weird that appears to be not only under the ice but now coming through the ice, they reckon, in Antarctica. And there could be a hint at this being a possible archaeological discovery as opposed to something geological. So what was I seeing there? Why was I seeing that right back in 2016? And another odd coincidence with this is if you go and look at my list of predictions that are still published on my website, and people have been taking screen grabs of this, so there's no fixing this. You'll also see that the next one along says new chamber and passageway found by ground scanners close to the Egyptian Sphinx. Now that was 28th of July 2006. Oh yeah, I made an update in the 28th of July 2016 because I thought, people were saying, "Oh, you got that right, Craig. There's been some passageways found under the Mayan pyramids in Mexico, new ones." So I thought, oh, well, yeah, maybe I got that right. But then I was talking about Egyptian Sphinx and other things like, so I gave it 1 out of 10. I said for that. All right, okay, you can tell me I got it right, but I say 1 out of 10 because that's not right. But what interests me is that I've put the two predictions right next to each other. Archaeological discovery made in Antarctica. That's a pretty odd thing to say. And then next to it, new chamber found under the Sphinx. And what are they finding in Antarctica? They're finding pyramids, possibly 3 pyramids. So I thought that's pretty odd. But then I had to look back through, and this has always been something that's kind of hinted in my mind, that there's been something in Antarctica that we just don't know about. I recently did some videos here about Kumari Kandam, which is the lost continent in the Indian Ocean, where an ancient civilization of super telepathic people supposedly lived. I believe that there was something, what they called Lumeria, but that's my other video. But keeping to the theme here, I looked back further and I saw that in 2014 I dismissed one of my predictions as completely wrong, and it said things I got completely wrong this year are, and I put ancient civilization found under ice in Greenland. Okay, Greenland, that's not Antarctica, but ancient civilization found under ice? Could you possibly forgive me for seeing it slightly wrong? Because us mediums and psychics don't see everything like you would in a newspaper article or on television. We get bits and pieces, we get impressions, we get feelings, and sometimes those feelings are way off and sometimes they're really bang on. So, there's this theme again coming up in my predictions of an ancient civilization found under the ice. So I think, it's early stages with the things that they spotted down there, but I think there's something really going on. And now I'm just going to tell you a little bit about some of the things that they're saying and my impressions about what they're saying about these things found under the ice Now, they're saying that, you're getting headlines coming in saying stunning images of what appears to be a pyramid in Antarctica are baffling scientists around the world. Okay, that's quite a grabbing headline, isn't it? But people are pretty much baffled by what's being seen. I mean, there are images on Google Earth that seem to reveal the existence of sort of like four-sided structures that from the air look very much like the pyramids, just like you would see a pyramid from the air. These structures or shapes, are they geological, the people are asking? Or is it because the ice is melting a bit more and we're starting to see sort of shadows of the ice melting? Or is there something there? Is there pyramids? Not just one. I think some have said they talked about possibly three, because there's three structures that seem to have been found there. And they're about 10 miles inland and quite close to the coast. So it's quite easy, I'd have thought, to send an expedition there to have a look. And three together, the pyramids of Giza are three, and reflecting the stars in the sky and things like that. Maybe there is some interesting hint at some of the mysteries of Egypt there as well. And the thing is, going back to ancient times, the climate was totally different. I mean, if we go back a long way, because we don't know how old, say, the Sphinx is, and we don't really know very clearly how old the pyramids are, but certainly the Sphinx seems to suggest it goes back many thousands of years. Many thousands of years. And it could be, there's thoughts that, the ancient stories and the Indian things that I talked about in one of my earlier videos about Kumara Kandam, that there is an ancient civilization that they speak about that went back millions and millions of years, and the people then were like telepathic super beings. They were like the old rishis and siddha yogis lived there. People that could live for many thousands of years, And they still say that some of these people, like Babaji, who was written about in Yogananda's books, actually still lives in the Himalayas. And but that's another story, really. But there are so many legends that are still believed to this day, and still many say continue, and that their beings continue to this day, that go back to these ancient civilization. And could it have been maybe that it was in Antarctica, when Antarctica was still green and fertile? You can find coal in Antarctica, for example, so that shows there was jungle life there going back very deep into our history. Okay, so let's look at some of the other stuff that's being said here about it. There's a quote in, I think it's the Daily Express, I found somewhere, that says that Dr. Vanessa Bowman said that go back 100 million years ago and Antarctica was covered in lush rainforest similar to those that existed in New Zealand today. 100 million years. Well, we've been around as a human species that long, not as a civilization, but were we once, are these legends that are spoken about in the old Indian stories that I've spoken about on this, on my talks before, are these old legends, not just thousands or tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands, but are they millions of years old? I mean, you think about how long it takes for a human body, human intelligence to develop by sheer random selection, and it's vast periods of time. It seems inconceivable to me that mankind wasn't around in some intelligent form many millions of years ago, and that there could have been, because of this, many advanced civilizations, maybe more advanced than we are today. Maybe we've fallen a bit from our peak of what we were capable of as humans. Anyway, experts, sorry, I've had a bit of a cold, so my throat's a bit croaky today. Experts theorise that this civilization could have existed before Africa, Asia and Europe. And that maybe civilization even spread not from Africa, but from some other place, which could have been the Kumara Kandam idea, the other, which would have linked to Antarctica, maybe. Now, there's a lot of crazy suggestions going on as well. Well, maybe they're not so crazy. But there's a lot of suggestions, sort of on the avant-garde edge of things, I suppose you could say, that say that maybe mankind got extraterrestrial help in the past. You know, the von Däniken idea. You know, I mean, a lot of his ideas have been dismissed, but the fundamental idea that, you know, that maybe we were visited by extraterrestrials and given a boost in the ancient past, you know, and we've not found the evidence of that. Well, maybe there is some evidence there. That's what a lot of people are saying, and that, you know, that the ancient stories of these super beings that lived in the old continents that have now gone, that maybe they weren't human at all, but maybe they were superhuman. Now you want to know obviously what my thoughts are about this, because okay, I saw this in my predictions going back 2014, 2016, and my feeling is that it's really I think it's not an extraterrestrial thing. I don't really play into that idea. Most of my ideas and most of my thoughts nowadays come a lot because of the the unprecedented access I've really had to the Nadi leaves through meeting some of the Nadi readers. And you know, in those leaves, everybody's life is written there and predicted, and I've written about that in my book, Messages from the Universe. But there's also hints there about people from outer space, you know. There's stories of things that have happened on other planets, you know. So, you know, they talk about the history of other planets. So where on earth does that information come? Why put it in there? You know, I haven't personally accessed that information yet, but I've spoken to people that have and found it in the leaves. So maybe there has been some extraterrestrial contact, but I think we basically underestimate the capabilities of human beings, of ourselves. I believe we already are super beings. I believe we've kind of limited our abilities through our materialistic view of the world. Not materialism, materialistic. You know, we're looking out to the world rather than looking into the hidden powers within ourselves. I mean, I'm a medium and a psychic and make predictions and so forth, but you know, they're tiny little things that I do really compared to what I think the real capabilities of human beings are. You know, I keep on about the huge power of human consciousness. You know, we haven't even begun to tap the slightest bit of our capabilities, and I hope that things like the discoveries in Antarctica may point not to an ancient past, but to a new potential future of what we could perhaps be capable of. Mind-boggling stuff, eh? I'm pretty convinced there was an ancient civilization that goes right back in time. But at the same time, before we jump to too many conclusions about this, we still have to wait for the evidence to be given to us. I mean, what's happened so far? We've got a few pretty vague sort of images shown to us. I mean, could it not be perhaps that these pyramid things that we see down there could be mountain ranges pointing out at the snow? Because remember, the snow is melting pretty rapidly in some of these places. And similarly, if I've looked at the beach sometimes sand will form almost pyramid-like shapes when it's blown by the wind. Snow is much less loose than sand, less viscous, isn't it? So it could form perhaps pyramid shapes even by the by certain shadow formations made from ice. So, you know, before we jump to it and say, yeah, this is definitely some lost civilization or some UFO, let's also keep our feet on the ground and wait a bit and see what evidence comes forward. Jane and I now do our spiritual work for our foundation. All the profits that come from things like our conferences and theatres and workshops and all those exciting things now go into this foundation, which ultimately has the long-term plan of building centres in the UK and maybe around the world one day. But meanwhile, we've been doing a lot of direct spiritual work with it. We've been going out, feeding people in India, giving to the destitute, giving to beggars. We've helped feed schools, helped orphanages, and we've even given cows to older people that have no other form of income. So mediumship can change your life, but it can also help people directly in the world. So go to the links at the end and find out all about what Jane and I are trying to do. And you can do a lot just by sharing these videos on social media. Help us get the word out. Help us to do something really good in this world. Click on this picture of me to subscribe to our channel and see all of our latest videos as soon as they're published. Or click on this next video for more of our stuff.